Good evening. I'm going to discuss this fascinating social battle that has gone on between Kraut and Tea, a member of the skeptic community, and J.F. Gariepy, however you pronounce his name. They've both made videos on race realism. Kraut and Tea made some videos trying to prove how stupid the alt-right is in believing in race realism. And then basically J.F. Gariepy, who is he's French-Canadian YouTuber and biologist. He's basically debunked Kraut and Tea's claims. And Kraut and Tea is a German member of the skeptic community and so on. And I should say that when I first found Kraut and Tea's channel maybe a year or two ago, not sure when, I initially liked some of his stuff against SJWs and so forth, but recently, well, even before all of this thing, but especially due to this, now everybody is seeing what basically, I don't know, idiotic fraud he is. But so anyway, this is, I don't know, I just found this whole thing has been quite entertaining. And I like what JF has done in how he consistently debunks Kraut's false claims and stuff. So yeah, I just want to, I don't know, promote him and talk about this stuff and so forth. And yeah, I guess I should make my opinion clear as well on race realism. I consider myself a race realist, which basically just means that I do believe there are different races in humanity. Whether you think that some races are superior to one another or stronger or more intelligent and whatnot, that's basically, that's up to you. What do you think? Personally, I just think that races have biological and cognitive differences, but I don't think that you can make any absolute judgment that say that this race is superior to that race. You can say that, black people seem to be superior to other races when it comes to basketball, but whites and Asians seem to be superior to at least blacks when it comes to engineering or whatever. And it basically depends on what you value the most. So anyway, let's get to this video. JF got a hold of a private stream with Kraut and Tea and his scientist allies who were helping him make his videos on debunking race realism. And he is playing clips from this private video that Kraut and Tea consented to. So it's not, according to what I understand, it's not illegal or anything to play this without, Kraut's permission, since initially he did consent to the video being taken of their private stream. So anyway, during this stream, Kraut and Tea made several racist remarks towards the French people, such as this one.
Jesus, we should have gassed all of them. Jesus, we should have gassed all of them.
Jesus, we should have gassed all of them.
So he is, of course, talking about the French people and speaking as a German man, referring to what the Nazis did. And later on, he also refers something like, maybe this is why the Germans tried to conquer the French so many times in history and whatnot. And Kraut also calls JF a French frog, and as JF points out, it basically proves that Kraut and Tea is racist towards the French, and he himself appears to be a race realist. since Kraut apparently believes that the French are a separate race from the Germans. And, well, it proves that he's a hypocrite when he's making all these videos supposedly debunking the idea of race realism and differences in races when he himself seems to believe that. And also this private stream proves, which, well, pretty much everybody who has been like following this so-called e-drama knows that Kraut is not simply doing his videos to promote science and educate people. He has a private vendetta against JF, basically for disagreeing with him, and this video proves it, and you should watch the whole thing. I won't play the whole thing since it's almost 50 minutes. And yeah, another interesting thing is that this video is from some other guy's channel, Daniel Casimir, since apparently this video was flagged on JF's channel and taken down. And you can go to JF's Twitter. There's some other people who, according to his Twitter, his claims on Twitter, like these other people have admitted to flagging his videos. So maybe Kraut had nothing to do with it, but it was some of his friends or supporters who did it. So anyway, like I like the stuff JF has done in combating these centrist leftists and their hypocritical narratives overall, but like he really gained a lot of my respect on another thing he stated in this video, and I'm gonna play it. It's gonna be like 7 minutes or something.
Makes sense for Kraut to call me a frog, to have such a despise for the French people. You need to understand, why do English people call the French frogs? It's a term that's especially used in anti-Québécois racism, in what they call Quebec bashing. Because a lot of the English people in Canada will call people like me frogs. And what it refers to is the supposed cowardness of the French people, and where this cowardness is often quoted to originate is World War II. Because you see, when people of Kraut's family, because Kraut is partly Jewish, when people of European Jewish families were getting exterminated in Germany during World War II, there were people like in the UK and the US willing to go fight Hitler. And then there were people like my grandfather. Frogs. Quebec people. Was my grandfather supportive of Hitler? No. He was not a Nazi. But my grandfather didn't want to participate to World War II. So, because he didn't care who would win. And so the people of Quebec were often considered as frogs, as pea soup, as people who were afraid to join wars. But let me correct the thing here. For Kraut, and for the other who could have heard this false rumor that the Québécois are not good at war and that they are unwilling to participate to wars. My grandfather didn't want to get involved in World War II. Not because he's a cock, not because he's a coward, but because he didn't care if the Jews died.
I should point out that I didn't know this is the reason why French people usually are called frogs. I thought it's just because they eat frogs. So I didn't. I know that French people are considered cowardly, and I suppose it would include the Quebecois, but I didn't know this explanation for frogs. But okay, let's carry on.
He saw the whole Hitler thing, and he said, I don't know about this. I don't know if I want to take side. All right? So neither was my grandfather a coward, neither was he a Nazi. He was hesitating. And I'm glad that I had this chance to correct the record. Now know that the reason we have a crowd here going on a quasi-private space, which is really a public space, because there were so many people hearing these racial slurs that we can consider somewhat public. The reason a descendant of the Jews like him would go on the public space and ridicule my people is that he's insulted at what my grandpa did. He's insulted about the fact that there's a people on this earth who wouldn't submit to the control of his people, who wouldn't go serve as cannon fodder to defend his people. And it's not a random thing that this guy is talking of military invasion of France, of the French, of gassing the French. This guy has true racial hatred. And to see this guy then pause against the alt-right as someone who opposes to race realism. Oh, don't worry, Kraut. We have the recording. We know you're not opposed to race realism. You just disagree with Western societies being controlled by white nationalists. Because when you're someone like Kraut, who's partly Jewish, partly German, partly English, you are, in fact, as we've seen in Kraut's tweets, here I was looking at the Kraut tweet history, you are, in fact, opposed to Muslim immigration. See, here Kraut says, good, I hope they kill as many Muslims as they can. And here he says, I know it makes you uncomfortable, but I don't care. I think it's time to make Muslims feel the rage we have built. Now, 1 week ago, if I had read this tweet by Kraut, who says the rage we have built, I might have thought that Kraut is somewhat of a Westerner who's built rage against the Muslim. But now I know that privately, Kraut is a French genocidal, partly Jewish guy who not only hates the Muslims, he hates the guys, and he hates France. He hates the idea of a society that he doesn't have control over. So Kraut, get fixed. Come out on the public space and explain what is your position. Be consistent. Please explain to the people of the internet what is your true position on race. And what's your position on the French race in particular. As for the others, please join the hashtag with me. Hashtag mWithTheFrog. Bye bye.
So, if it is true that Kraut and Tea is partially Jewish, well, it just means he's Jewish, since there is no part Jewish, because there is no you are partially infected with leprosy or the plague, if you go hugging people and you're infected with any of these, contagious diseases or something, you don't just, you don't say, oh, I'm only partially infected. If you're Jewish, and it affects you the way, well, as we can see from the behavior of Kraut and Tea. Because previously I couldn't really understand his obsessive and compulsive behavior in this issue, even though like I know many of these so-called skeptics, they are against race realism, like, you know, Sargon of Akkad, but even himself said he, you know, washed his hands of this whole affair because, well, I guess not because he was convinced by the arguments that JF made towards race realism, but that Sargon merely realizes how Kraut and Tea has gone off the deep end. But, you know, if in fact, as JF claims, Kraut and Tea is Jewish, then it makes a lot of sense, because the way he has been behaving, the way Kraut and Tea has been behaving is very Jewish in his behavior. Since, well, Jews tend to come up with their opinions first and then try to find the evidence is opposite to, you know, us Goy, and Goy just means anybody who is not Jewish. We tend to look at evidence and then try to draw conclusions based on it, but Jews do the opposite. They draw conclusions, and usually these conclusions are the kind that benefit them, and then they try to make up the evidence. And he has drawn the conclusion that there is no such thing as race, except maybe when it comes to Jews. I don't know. I would say it's probable that he considers Jews a race, even though he wouldn't admit it, but subconsciously he probably does. But so yeah, and this sort of mindset gives Jews a kind of an edge, like why they are so successful in the world, because they don't really have to struggle with the issue of, you know, truth and falseness. They don't have to guess their actions, or like, am I doing the right thing? Because, well, they have come to the conclusion, and they stick to it. And of course, like when I say that Goys look at evidence first and then draw conclusions, it's of course doesn't mean that we all know the truth about everything. Certainly not, because we don't ever have access to all of the evidence, and sometimes we have faulty evidence and we draw faulty conclusions based on that evidence, and sometimes we are just lazy or stupid and we make mistakes. But I would say that most people, regular people, they at least try to adhere to the, you know, philosophy of looking at evidence first and drawing conclusions later. But yeah, this is just another. It appears like I didn't think about this before. Like I remember maybe a year ago or something watching a video by Kraut and Tea, and I guess he was probably complaining about the Islamic invasion of Europe, but then he was saying like how he is, you know, how horrible the Germans treated the Jews or whatever, and how far we've gone since then. Like, you know, Europeans and Germans in particular, in, you know, making Jews feel safe and comfortable and stuff. And I you know, felt a bit triggered. Like, why is he so? Why does he care so much about the Jewish issue? And I thought he was just a German who had been, you know, brainwashed by all the liberal media that has a lot of Jewish influence behind it. But if he is partially Jewish, then it makes perfect sense. You know, pretty much all the things he said. He's against Islam, he's against white nationalism or racial realism, because it basically calls it it's like, if we acknowledge that we are all of different races, and then, let's say we have, people from all over the world in a room, and then you're supposed to, introduce yourself like, hi, I'm Ugombo, I'm from Congo, and this and that, and I'm Francois, I'm French and whatnot, and I'm Hikikomori from Japan and whatnot, and then there's like, I'm Shlomo, I'm Jewish, and then everybody knows, that guy is Jewish. But if we have this confusion that, there is no races or something, then Jews can hide better and engage in their nepotistic practices. And Jews are a race. That's what most Jews seem to think. I probably have to do another video about it at some point. I don't, because I really do want to make videos about other things except Jews. It's not that I plan always to talk about Jews, but for some reason, like, even before I knew that, JF, because I was watching his stream the other day when he first made this video. Like, this is just an edited portion of the longer stream that JF did that day. And like, even before he, mentioned that Kraut is Jewish, I was thinking maybe I should make a video about this stuff, because I just find it, very funny and fascinating and whatnot. So, and guess what? This happens to be another example of Jewish tricks, and this, this very respectable guy is calling out Kraut as this Jewish supremacist, as most Jews tend to be. If somebody watches this video and, calls me anti-Semitic or whatnot, and I'm making shit up, yeah, I probably have to do another video just pointing out that Jews themselves believe that they are a separate race.